In the latter half of the 1980s, Nintendo was ruling North America with an iron fist. Its Nintendo Entertainment System was all the rage, easily decimating any competition that would come against it. Among my classmates, damn near everyone either had an NES or knew someone close enough that they could play it regularly. Believe it or not, I was among this lot, lost in the adventures of Mario, Zelda, and Metroid, not giving any of the other consoles a second thought. That was until a good friend of mine got a Sega Master System, that other system that you sometimes saw in the gaming magazines of the day. I admit at first I was pretty skeptical of the device, even making fun of my buddy because he still didn't have an NES. But my buddy had some great parents that purchased games for him often, and it didn't take long for him to gather up an impressive library. The thing is, I knew a great many of the games that were available on the Master System because they were arcade ports. As I played more, a respect began to grow for Sega's console, and I found myself wanting one of my own. One thing that was incredibly cool about the Master System was that its games looked and sounded completely different from the software I had been enjoying on Nintendo's machine. Some of these games looked really good, and a few of them even blew me away. Among that group was the home conversion of Sega's popular arcade ninja adventure, Shinobi. Released in 1988, it grabbed my attention like you wouldn't believe. I wanted to play it every day, and when I finally did get my own Master System, it was one of the first titles I purchased for it. In this episode, we are going to go over this 2 megabit conversion and see how close it was to the arcade original. Was it a monumental letdown, or was this a bright shining moment in the history of Sega's 8-bit efforts? Let's find out. The story of the Western Master System version differs quite a bit from the coin-op original. It follows Joe Musashi, secret government agent and ninja extraordinaire. Whenever the world is threatened, your skills are called upon to even the odds. This time it's the Ring of Five, a powerful organization of ninja that have kidnapped the children of the world's leaders in a bid to bring them to their knees. You are the last line of defense and the only hope any of these children have. When you take control of our hero, you are stepping into an action game that features melee and projectile-based combat. Your goal is to rescue the hostages in each area and fell the leader that guards the next stage. These areas have multiple tiers that you must negotiate. To do that, you have a normal jump for simple obstacles around you and a super jump to get to the higher tiers. Some of the later stages have platforming segments where bottomless pits replace the safety of the earlier levels. At your disposal are throwing stars that can take out the bad guys at distance. As you rescue more children, you gain power-ups and bonuses that really help you out. You get health replenishment, powerful melee weapons like swords and nunchaku, plus deadly ranged weapons like grenades and a gun. There are important differences here from the arcade. In Master System Shinobi, you no longer need to rescue all the hostages to end the stage. You now have a life bar instead of one-hit deaths, and your power-ups give you additional weapons not seen in the coin-op. These changes mix things up, but the core gameplay is still largely the same. This includes the ability to gain access to bonus stages by rescuing enough hostages. Here you will face down ninja in a shooting gallery style setup. As your foes race across the screen, you must take them out before they get a chance to pounce on you. If you fail, you get nothing, but if you succeed, you get a chance to store up to 4 ninja magic. This game-changing option comes in multiple forms. It can freeze enemies in time, make you invincible, or wipe out everything on the screen. These can be a real help in some of the tougher areas of the game, but you cannot use them during the boss encounters. And speaking of bosses, you will be facing some of the most vicious battles this side of a Souls game. It starts with a battle that teaches you to focus on the weak spot to defeat your foe. It's not a hard fight, but it sets you up to face much tougher boss encounters soon enough. You will need to master these battles because there are no continues in Shinobi. Once you lose all your lives, it's game over and back to the title screen. Rescuing hostages also replenishes your life and can make the life bar larger, so don't leave any behind. Finally, every 100,000 points nets you an extra life, and you're gonna need them to beat this one. When the Sega Master System showed up in 1986, its visual capabilities were something to behold. Many of its best-looking games were often as pretty as early 16-bit titles. Shinobi here doesn't quite fall into that category, but it's still a damn fine-looking 8-bit journey. Bosses are large, stages have great variety, and the color and detail are excellent throughout. Joe fights through caves, city streets, a weapons factory, a mountain outpost, and of course the heart of the enemy's main base of operations. They all look great with multiple areas with different layouts and backgrounds. I mentioned the bosses earlier, and I want to stress how well done these bad guys are. All of them are impressively large, but you also get designs that stray away from what you typically saw of the era. Mandara, for instance, isn't just one huge enemy, but literally a wall of enemies you must break before facing the final challenge on the other side. Black Turtle is a helicopter that dumps tons of ninja on you, and the final challenge has multiple forms and attacks you must master. By 1988 standards, I don't think you can fault a single element of this game's visuals, and it's an overall solid representation of what the original System 16 pulled off in the arcade. I would have loved to have seen some layering in some of the backgrounds, or maybe some additional animations in the stages to make them stand out more. But this would have gone beyond the arcade itself, and with that in mind, Shinobi on the Master System gets the job done. Shinobi sounds pretty good, but there isn't a whole lot here to really sink your teeth into. There's just no other way to say it. It's missing much of the arcade soundtrack, most likely due to the tiny ROM size. Fortunately, this game also supports the FM sound unit, giving you two options should you have the means. I have two samples for you, so you can hear the difference. To understand my opinion of this game, you must first know my experience with it. As a fan of arcade action games, the original coin-op Shinobi was an unforgettable ride of Sega magic. There's no question it was inspired by games like Rolling Thunder, but it was so much better than that game it blazed a trail all its own. I genuinely loved this when it showed up at my local arcade because it was one of those games that gave you a few easy levels to play, guaranteeing you some screen time even when you first played it. By the time you started getting good, this game was worth every quarter and then some, providing a killer value for your hard-earned money. Seeing this come home to the Master System with so much of its content intact, its sound and visuals so well done, and its gameplay expanded and evolved with extras, made me want it so bad even as an NES owner. When it did show up on the Nintendo Entertainment System over a year later in 1989, I was dead set on playing it. Needless to say, the outcome of that made me appreciate the Master System version a whole lot more. On the NES, it looked worse, played worse, and just wasn't nearly as fun. It also didn't hurt that I love Ninja like every other red-blooded child of the 1980s. That's not meant as a joke either. Ninja-based content was everywhere in the United States, from movies to cartoons and of course video games. Shinobi basically gathered up everything that was cool about Ninja, let you loose on an adventure to save the world, and made the gameplay good enough to not get in the way. The only three things that I genuinely dislike in this game is the fact that you can't use your hard-earned ninja magic anytime you want, especially against the bosses. This is something that absolutely should have been available, and the fact you can use it anytime in later games in the series just proves that. The second thing is the lack of a fully featured soundtrack. Some of these stages needed more variety than what's on display here. The third and final critique is the lack of an ending. Any ending. Once you down the final boss, it's game over and the adventure ends. But these things are mostly a small issue in a title this well made. The replay value is high, the presentation represents the source well, and the most damning critique I can level at it is pissing and moaning about overpowered magic you don't need to have fun. The end product was a game Sega Master System owners could be proud of, an 8-bit adventure that was easy to love and challenging to defeat. That combination is not an easy thing to pull off, but Sega hit a home run with this one. As you can probably imagine, I was not the only one impressed by Shinobi's quality. The media of the day praised it almost universally, calling its graphics, sound, and gameplay some of the best available. Some have even gone on record calling it the most important ninja-based video game ever created, and one that has inspired numerous clones and closely related action games in the days since the arcade version was first released. Shinobi most certainly was not the first title to feature the fearsome ninja warrior, and it of course is constrained by its 1987 design elements. But what it did was wrap the subject in so much appeal, you simply had no choice but to sit down and give it a go. This game started me on a journey with this great series that has given me a number of my favorite games of all time. Games that just kept getting better and better. Whether it be Shadow Dancer, Revenge of Shinobi, Shinobi 3, or even the Game Gear outings, they all remain timeless, infinitely replayable, and some of the most memorable for the hardware they first appeared on. Shinobi on the Master System is no different, and a grand part of that console's legacy and appeal. There are those that fancy themselves retro enthusiasts that will tell you Shinobi on the Master System was nothing special. They often had no real experience with the Master System in its day, and many clearly have no reverence even for the arcade original. Don't let these platform evangelists steer you away. If you fall into the category of someone who has never played this version, do yourself a favor and remedy that. It's a fine example of top-notch 8-bit design, and the challenge will remind you of a time when video games didn't need to hold your hand to be fun or appealing. It eases you into the adventure, teaches you what you need to know early, and then demands you put on a show with your newfound skills in the late game. It isn't just a good old video game, it's proof that when Sega was firing on all cylinders, they made games you could never forget. I'm Sega Lord X. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.